Welcome back to Midlife by Human Design. Happy solstice. I hope you had a beautiful, beautiful solstice, Midlife Mavens. One thing that I love helping my clients do is implement human design to feel like they're actually living the life that they want to live. And today's episode is a great example of what that looks like using a tool that I built, the Planning by Human Design system. So you can get that link in the show notes. And if you feel like you might be ready to go to the next level, then feel free to fill out the coaching application in the show notes, and we can discuss how I can help you apply this specifically to your life by working together. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, beauties. Today's episode is a continuation of looking at planning through the lens of human design. And in this case, we're going to take a look at profiles. So the first thing that I want to share with you is about your profile. First of all, actually, let me back up. Let me tell you where to find your profile. So if you don't have your chart, go to laurieleeside.com, go to get your chart and put in your birth information. And then it will tell you on the side of the chart in the information exactly what your profile is. It'll be 2 numbers, 1 through 6 on both sides. It looks like a fraction. The other thing I wanted to tell you before we jump into the actual profiles is that there are 2 numbers. One is conscious, one is unconscious. Personality design. So the personality/conscious side of you is that first number, and the second number is the design unconscious side of you, which speaks to your body, which talks about the things that your physical vessel needs. So when you're looking at your profile, what you want to do is try to give that second line in your profile, that number, whatever the themes are of that number, that's what you want to try to do for yourself in some way, shape, or form in order for the first number of your profile, the personality side, to truly live out its purpose, to express it in its highest form. So in order for the first number of your profile to work well for you, you want to give it what it needs, which is in the second part of your profile. So stay with me. We're going to go through all of the profiles, and I'm going to explain to you what each of these looks like in the context of planning. So the first one we're going to talk about is the 1-3. The 1-3 is called the investigative martyr in traditional terms. And the second number in this profile is a 3. So you are going to need lots of experimentation. You are going to need permission to fuck around and find out. You're going to need trial and error in order for you to feed that one line. And that one line is going to come alive when you've tested it enough to know what actually works. So the one line is all about research. And I love this profile because it takes lived experience and turns it into the research that we can all really benefit from. So when you're thinking about planning, if you're a 1-3, then I would encourage you to build in time for testing and recalibrating before you commit to things. And keep in mind that your research is lived experience. It's embodied first, and then you can get into the more theoretical, the more book kind of research. Okay, let's move on to the 1-4. The 1-4 is the investigative opportunist in traditional terms. So the 4 is the second line in this profile, and 4s need connection. They need conversation. They need relationships in order to feed that first line again. And this first line is shaped and shared through their trusted networks. So think about how do you share what you know through the people that you connect with? And so a planning key for you would be scheduling conversations before, again, committing to something or before drawing any conclusions that will take you down a certain path. Make sure you have lots of conversations first, because your best insights are going to come through your conversations with people. Okay, if you are a 2-4, 2-4s are called the Hermit opportunist. So the 2 is the Hermit component and 4 is your second line. So again, thinking about invitations, thinking about relationships, thinking about connections and communities. And you want to spend time with your community, and they are the ones who are going to call out that hermit. So the beauty of the 2 line is that you have natural gifts, and they will be recognized by your community, and they will be drawn out of you versus you having to go out and trumpet them somewhere. So what I would suggest for you with planning is alternating time between getting out there and having conversations and being in relationship with other people, and alone time, because the 2 line is a hermit. So think about how can you honor that need for space and quiet time. Okay, the 2-5 is called the Hermit Heretic. So the heretic here is the 5 line, and the 5 line is very practical. It's a problem solver. It likes to solve problems, especially when they speak to the collective or can help the collective. So giving it a real world problem to solve allows that 2 line to come alive with its natural talent, because it's being applied where it's actually needed and where it can be super practical. So my suggestion for you would be planning for availability. Like lots of white space on your calendar if you're a 2-5 would be a really smart thing to do, because you want to allow for invitations to come to you, similar to a projector kind of vibe. But those invitations are about drawing out that natural talent of yours. And when it can be solving a very practical problem, that's just going to make you feel fantastic. Okay, 3-5s are our martyr heretics, and you'll start to see some similar themes here because all of the profile lines are the same. You know, they have similar themes, but when they're mixed together, they create very different profiles. So again, here, the 5 line needs something to fix. It needs a practical problem to solve. So looking for those, identifying those problems that truly resonate with you. And then you get to connect your trial and error process. So it's not just about solving the problem with, book research. That's not really the way that you are probably going to attack a problem. It is going to come from, how do I play around with this to figure it out myself? And when you have your trial and error, when it's connected to something you actually want to fix, that feels like you're drawn to, you're lit up by, you're excited about, then your 5th line is going to feel rooted in something strong to stand on. So my suggestion for you would be planning short feedback loops, where you can take things for a spin and then come back to the problem, almost like design thinking and figuring out the real world application to the way that you are solving the problem. If you are a 3-6, then you are the martyr role model. So that 6 line is all about perspective. It's about reflection. There's a bit of distance. Now, there's a caveat here. If you are listening to this and you haven't made it fully into that 6-line flavor, which would be in the third part of your life after your Chiron return, roughly, then you're going to be kind of functioning like a double 3. So thinking about lots of screwing around and finding out, thinking about lots of experimentation. And if you're at the 6-line component, then how do you take the wisdom that you're building? How do you apply that then to new experiences and new experiments and integrate that wisdom into your new experiences? And so a planning key for you would be to consider adding in more reflection time. And I would suggest this even if you aren't at the 6-line phase yet. If you haven't made it to, the early 50s yet, then just thinking about how can you start to build in more reflection time. Because in midlife, even if you're in earlier midlife, you're working as a double 3, and that's a lot of messing around. That's a lot of experimentation and falling on your face and then getting back up again and thinking about what are these lessons. So if you're on the roof in that middle phase, giving yourself time to reflect so that you can build that wisdom. Okay, we're moving on to the 4-6. 4-6 is the opportunist role model. So again, the 6-line needs that integrity. It needs time to observe. It needs reflection time in order to bring that to the relationships and the networking that the 4-line is all about. So relationships may reflect who you are becoming as a 4-6. And the planning key for the 4-6 would be thinking about the commitments and the relationships that truly nourish you and which ones do not, and which ones need to go for the new year and which ones could potentially still stay and are serving you as well as the other person. Okay, the 4-1 needs those solid foundations, needs lots of research, needs to give itself a solid foundation to stand on in order to show up in relationship and be in community. So my key for you with planning would be not to rush things. Take your time. Let yourself sink into the research, the time that it takes to feel confident about whatever it is that you want to be talking about, and then go out and work your network or work your relationships, talk with people, share your ideas with people. Okay, we've got the 5-1 next. So in this case, that research, that preparation, that deep understanding is going to be in service of your practical problem solving and your ability to universalize ideas. So thinking about what can you share with the larger collective. And I don't know if I gave you the name of this one. It's the Heretic Investigator. So the planning key for you is going to be to spend that time doing research and truly building a deep understanding before you offer solutions. Then we've got the 5-2, which is the Heretic Hermit. And this second line is, again, going to need some alone time. It's got those natural abilities, but in order to have those truly be drawn out of you, giving yourself enough alone time, enough rest is super important. And then the 5-line is going to come in and be that problem solver, and you want to show up rested enough so that you can figure out whether the problem you're solving is something that is aligned with you or is a projection. And I didn't mention this earlier, but the 2-line and the 5-line, if you have either of those in your profile, then those come with projections. And what I mean by that is there is a projection kind of field that's always in play with your profile. And so you want to really be aware of when you are interacting with somebody, if they are seeing the real you or if they are projecting something onto you. So then we have the 6-2, which is called the role model hermit. Again, that 2 line needs alone time, needs integration time, needs retreat in order for their gifts to come to the surface. And then that 6 line shows up with its organic wisdom, right? Those natural gifts kind of feed into this beautiful wisdom. White space for you is a non-negotiable. So important because the 6 line is very reflective and the 2 line needs that alone time. So making sure when you are planning that you give yourself a lot of white space in your calendar where you don't actually have anything planned. And then the last profile is the 6-3. And the 6-3, again, it's going to function similarly to the 3-6 where it'll be double threes for a little while. But that 3 line needs that lived experience, needs those life experiences in order to feed the wisdom of the 6. So think about your experiments being transformed eventually into this beautiful guidance as a role model and giving yourself time to reflect when life happens. So if you're listening to this at the time that I'm dropping it on the 22nd of December, then, it's a crazy time of year and tends to be super busy. And planning can be really helpful in terms of saving you a bit of headache when it comes to all of the things that you have to do. And the lines are part of the planning process that I have in Planning by Design. So if you haven't gotten your planner yet, it is still on sale. It's available on my website. I will leave the link in the show notes. And remember that it's also coming with a private podcast that will have the date transits in it for each month. So not only will you have all of the beautiful things in the planner, but you'll also have the energetic weather. So I'm doing this podcast for you today as something that will help you in addition to what is in the planner. These podcasts that I'm releasing here in December are all helping you in your planning process and in your reflection process as we end 2025 and think about what's next in 2026. So I hope that you give it some serious consideration to start planning using your human design. All right, I'll see you soon. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Midlife by Human Design. If you are not already on my newsletter list, then click the link in the show notes and join in the fun where I send out all kinds of good stuff every week for you along the lines of human design and astrology. And I am wishing you the strength to let go of what no longer serves you, joy to fill your days, and the courage to be who you came here to be.